The greatest journey is not becoming stronger than others. It is discovering who you truly are. He spent years searching for the secret to becoming great, until he realized had been inside him all along.
When we picture Bruce Lee today, we see an image of physical perfection, the blinding speed, the chiseled physique, the martial arts icon the world remembers. But his toughest opponent never stepped onto a mat. Behind the fame, Lee was engaged in a quiet, relentless search to determine who he actually was. Long before the Hollywood fame and the global legacy, he was a young man trying to make sense of his place in the world. He realized early on that true mastery demands more than throwing a perfect punch. It requires stripping away the labels society hands you to face the person underneath. Growing up in Hong Kong, his environment was defined by deep cultural expectations and rigid historical rules. In the martial arts community, centuries-old fighting systems were treated as sacred law. Students learned stances and sequences exactly as they had been passed down for generations. Training emphasized synchronized harmony. The system rewarded those who blended in, prioritizing strict conformity over individual expression. Lee viewed this rigid structure as a classical mess. He argued that by perfectly copying the precise movements of dead masters, a fighter locks themselves into someone else's rhythm. He respected his instructors, but he constantly questioned the practical value of these methods. He wanted to know how choreographed routines would hold up in an unpredictable street fight. Strict adherence to tradition forces a person to act out the past. In that process, they lose the ability to express their own authentic self. At age 18, Lee left his home and arrived in America, an entirely unfamiliar cultural landscape. Navigating this new reality caused intense friction. As a Chinese man in a Western country during the 1960s, he felt the weight of isolation and regular rejection. That loneliness forced him to confront a hard truth. He could not simply warp his personality to fit the expectations of his new surroundings. When geographical displacement takes away your cultural anchors, you are forced to forge an entirely new internal identity. Lee channeled these questions into his physical training, asking why fighters were taught to plant their feet in rigid, immobile stances. He abandoned the dogmatic rulebook and began a phase of intense physical experimentation. He pressure-tested every stance, block, and strike. He discarded anything purely performative, keeping only the movements that possessed raw utility. Lee treated training as a process of subtraction, carving away unnecessary physical clutter until only the most efficient movements remained. With the essential fragments remaining, he began combining them into fluid, unconstrained sequences. Challenging these ancient rules required the courage to be misunderstood by peers, who viewed his innovation as a betrayal of their heritage. He proved that martial arts shouldn't imprison a person with rules. Instead, it should serve as a vehicle for honest self-expression. Lee realized that the mental focus required to strip away a redundant physical block was the same focus needed to navigate his daily life. This physical efficiency became his blueprint for a broader philosophy. He embraced the concept of formlessness. He used water as his primary example. It has no fixed shape and refuses to cling to a rigid structure. When water encounters a barrier, it adapts seamlessly to its surroundings, while remaining true to its fundamental nature. True adaptability isn't about changing who you are. It is the act of dropping your rigid defenses to flow with reality. This perspective highlights a central contradiction in Bruce Lee's enduring legacy. His impact did not come from inventing an extraordinary new persona to present to the world. He refined his physical and mental skills by deliberately chiseling away all the habits, expectations, and fears that weren't authentically his own. We are often taught that personal growth is about addition, acquiring new traits and achievements to build an identity. But Lee showed that self-discovery is a process of shedding external expectations to discover who you already are and daring to become it.